Hello Corona developers. I'm going to show you the setup for the Corona simulator, Corona Enterprise, maybe show you Outlaw, the IDE editor for LuaScript, and a little bit of Eclipse editing. Initially, to develop on Corona, you're going to need the Corona simulator or also the Corona Enterprise SDK. Alright, so let's assume that you've downloaded those. They're going to go into your applications folder. So I'll open up that. Okay, so you drag those to your applications folder and you'll end up with Corona Enterprise if you've got that kind of license, or definitely Corona SDK, which includes the simulator. The Corona Enterprise includes a bunch of samples that will teach you how to do various things, and that's for your native development. We'll start with the basics, which is the Corona simulator. So I'll launch that. Now that Corona is open, back to these examples here. Go and download the Corona SDK examples from the documentation. Okay, I'll close this. Alright, so here you go. So you've got the Ouya SDK examples, and there's Corona, and we have two examples, in-app purchases and virtual controller. Let's start with the virtual controller. That's a pure Corona project, and you just open this folder in the Corona simulator. So I need the path to this guy, so I'm just going to get his info, and here we go. Here's the path. Okay, we'll pop over into this simulator. Once you have the simulator open, we're going to open these projects. So let's start with the virtual controller example, and here you go. Ouya SDK examples, Corona virtual controller, and here we go. This is our virtual controller example. Just open that, and here you have it open in the Corona simulator. The simulator is useful because under the Window tab, you can view how your application is going to work and look on various different devices, and we can say, okay, let's look at it as a 720p Ouya. That helps you. Alright, so with the simulator, you can look at the virtual controller examples. You can also look at the in-app purchase example. Part of it, the Corona part. So if I go into File, Open, look at Corona in-app purchases, there's a Corona folder. So this thing is two parts. It's got a native part and a Corona simulator part. So if you open this, the main Lua file, you can preview the example, and again, Window, view as the Ouya, and you can see the in-app purchase example. For this example, the function, since it interacts with the in-app purchases and the ODK, it actually has to run on the Android Ouya device. Now that we can open both projects in the simulator, let's start with how do you edit in your development environment. So I'll switch back to the virtual controller. Okay. A useful tool for editing Lua Corona files is a tool called Outlaw, and there's a link to that in the resources. Under recommended tools, you'll see the Outlaw IDE. Alright, so I'll switch to Outlaw. And with Outlaw, again, go back to your Ouya SDK examples. You can just drag the Corona folders over to the My Projects section. So I'm going to click and drag the virtual controller to My Projects. And under in-app purchases, you can drag the Corona folder to My Projects. And this sets up the various Lua scripts, and you just double click on a Lua script and you can edit the file. Outlaw gives you syntax highlighting. For your Corona simulator work, you can do most of your editing in Outlaw. For the native Corona Enterprise SDK work, I use Eclipse. So if you switch over to Eclipse and we take a look at the in-app purchase example in Corona, you'll see this Android project. Now I import that into Eclipse, so you use File, Import, Existing Android project, browse to it. Okay, so you go to your Ouya SDK examples, Corona, in-app purchases, the Android folder, and here we go. Finish. Okay, then we have it in our workspace. For our in-app purchase example, loaded into Eclipse, and this lets you edit the source. You'll find some important stuff under SDK, and then part of the example of activity in the in-app purchases. And I'll cover this in detail in another video. If you're using the Corona Simulator, you can use Outlaw as your Lua script editor. If you have a native Corona Enterprise project, you can use Eclipse to edit the Java portion, and Outlaw to edit the Lua script portion, just like your simulator project. Stay tuned for more videos on the examples in detail, and thanks for watching.